Yeah.
Cross streets and whatnot. All right, so
All
we're
right.
going live there, Robbie.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Mhm.
Tried to wear the non-reflective eye gear for y'all.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I guess in my area, in my lighting now, it doesn't reflect that badly, but
Well, if I was to wear the other ones, the professorial ones, they tend to reflect a little bit more.
oh yeah, wow, yeah, they do.
So I have no idea why that is.
I don't know.
All right.
So I'm just going to start. We'll kind of have a loose structure, man. Figure there's just so much stuff going on recently worldwide with Ukraine and in our country and all the different. Yeah, I mean, I guess we're kind of on the tail end of alien UFO balloons attacking. But we'll get into all that and just see where it takes us, and then we'll also everything will remind us of how we have to protect our daughters.
Oh yeah,
we got 3 dad daughters here tonight, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and record the cloud. So, for Manny.
Okay.
This silence brought to you by Marcel Marceau.
What the hell? This is not it.
Yes, Robbie just does his posts and whatnot.
Yeah.
We chit chat, then we'll kick it off and all that. But yeah, we had some. Was Robbie or did either of you make the happy hour, the Endless Ranters happy hour last night?
No.
No, I was otherwise engaged.
We had like tornadic activity here. It's one of my favorite words, tornadic.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So like about, I don't know, it's like a little after 6 o'clock and all of a sudden there's like 80-mile-an-hour winds and power goes out for a split second. We lost our Wi-Fi. And then neither me or my wife had cell service for like 45 minutes. So like as everything was like kicking off and like, just the wind was howling and all the sirens are going off. We're hearing new siren patterns, I guess. I'm trying to check weather or anything, anything on my phone. And it's like, nope, got nothing. She's got AT&T. I've got Verizon. And neither of us had cell signal for like 45 minutes. So
whatever y'all had yesterday made its way up here.
Yeah. That's right.
I had a trampoline in my backyard until about noon today.
Oh man, yeah. There's all kinds of pictures.
It's in my front yard now. It's fine, but it blew over the fence. It took one of the stone pillars with it, and now it's sitting in my front yard. I'm gonna move it back tomorrow morning.
Now you can just be like, "That I meant to put it there,"
Yeah, for all the neighborhood kids.
If it's in the neighbor's yard, it's harder to say that, or if it's in the neighbor's pool or on top of their house. Yeah.
Well, when it took off one of the top of the stone pillars coming over the fence, and now that slab is sitting in the front yard next to the trampoline. Yeah, it's make you think. I heard something clang out there. I didn't think it would be, that big thing.
Yeah. It was pretty wild here, but I guess we got out of it pretty much unscathed, except for there's a 45-minute period where I was thinking, man, that's like all the shit we pay for monthly. It's like all gone.
Yep.
Nothing. Can't even, have no idea like what the sirens mean or like
imagine
if there are tornadoes touching down for real,
Yeah, imagine when the EMP hits and everything goes dead.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of reminds you. So I was like, we need to get a little bit more prepared as always. Never hurts.
Never hurts.
I got some stuff here. I'm not like a prepper. I mean, I've got weapons and some food, but not enough food.
I mean, it's kind of like I live in the suburbs, so it's like you can only be prepared because you're not going to stay here. It's not like we're going to hunker down.
Why do you think I have the weapons to keep you city folk away?
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm half Korean, so I'll be up on the roof with a rifle. We live in like a corner and like a kind of like a half a cul-de-sac kind of corner, so I can see, from my roof, I could see down both streets that lead to our house. So yeah, I don't know, like you really wouldn't hold out at your home in the middle of the suburbs for, I don't know, maybe you would, but
Not unless you have
you'd probably be trying to get somewhere else, so I don't know.
There are, just as a side note, I know this is only kind of related and a little bit disgusting, was Christmas morning we had a pipe burst, so we had to shut off our water, so we were without running water and plumbing for about 2 days. That just makes you appreciate modern conveniences even more.
Yeah, that sucks, man. Was it from a freeze or something?
Memphis had one of the coldest days for
Mhm.
Memphis they ever had. It went down to like -1 or -2. And it just, the pipes here aren't built for it because it never happens.
Yeah, we had that. I guess we kind of got lucky. We had that happen in our garage. It was like a garage wall that was exposed to the outdoors. So it's like burst in a spot. And because we woke up in the middle of the night and we heard this sound basically it was a sound of like a super high pressure, like water, whatever.
I thought the heat was on high because I heard the gushing sound.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a gushing. It was ours was like a pressure washer up against the side of a car door, a Honda Civic.
Okay.
My wife's car door. So I was like, what the hell does that sound like? It sounds like someone squirting a hose at a piece of metal. And it was just like a laser that like blasted, like the pipe burst in a little dot. It like lasered through the drywall and was just like, like slamming against the car door, but in the garage. So it didn't destroy anything other than, didn't really destroy anything. So
it started to flood our bedroom, but luckily we stopped it in time, then got the shop vac out. Then we got the 6 fans we used to keep cool in the summertime in Memphis, and took us about 18 to 24 hours to dry out the carpet.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, and then everybody else is probably, that probably happened to a lot of people,
That's why it took us 2 days to get it fixed. Well, that, and it was Christmas time. So finding a plumber was challenging.
It's like quadruple rates.
But like I tell my wife, that's why we make money.
Yeah. I mean, that's why plumber, if you're a master plumber, man, you can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You can do it all right.
If you've got the skills for something like that. My brother's a master electrician. I mean, he's always going to be in demand.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like electrician part. Yeah. This country's looking at 50 years of remodeling, rewiring,
especially when we go green.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But that's why we got to go green, so we can rewire everything
and experience brownouts.
So I think this is episode 143.
Yes, that's what we got on the screen. 143. Yep.
Oh yeah, well that's what. Okay, yeah, we're already committed to that because I typed that in already. Went live.
I sure hope it is. Okay. Main group is up. Instagram. Oh shoot. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not on the gram.
No.
Yeah, I've hit a limit with technology. I can only handle like 2 social media apps, I can do Facebook and Twitter. That's about it.
I've got Facebook. Technically, I have a Twitter account for my writing, but I haven't tweeted anything in several years.
I'm not opposed to all the other platforms, whatever. I just don't, I just know my limits.
Well, it's also, that's one of the reasons why, Facebook and Twitter, they have all the momentum. It's so hard to start anything new, whether it's Parler or MeWe or anything else. It's so hard because the other ones are just so established that inertia is going to keep people in place.
Yeah. Some say, I saw this thing on Joe Rogan. I don't really watch Joe Rogan, but I watched some clips on YouTube, but they were talking about how the whole thing against TikTok is basically just Facebook, Instagram. I guess that's the same thing. Twitter, whatever, just ganging up on TikTok.
Well, that and the fact that it's controlled by the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, it's like because Facebook's like, hey, hold on here. We supply your information to China. Not like you want us as the gatekeepers to sell your information to everyone else, like we sell it to not just to China, but everybody. Come on.
I was talking with somebody earlier about the whole, if we could go back 30 or 40 years, what would we invest in? Could you imagine being the guy who Mark Zuckerberg offered 25% of Facebook to for $4 million back in like 2004?
Yeah.
Who turned him down?
Oh, when did he try to sell it? I guess. Yeah.
Well, somebody contacted Zuckerberg and said, "Hey, we want to invest in Facebook." And this was like spring or summer of 04, before it really took off. And Zuckerberg said, "I'll give you a 25% ownership share if you invest $4 million." The guy's like, "It's not worth $4 million."
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, crystal ball. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was the thing about Dell. Like that was the first one of those was like Dell, and then there's Amazon, and then there's
Dell computers.
I still have a Dell computer. It's about 10 years old.
That was the first one I bought for myself, was a Dell computer. But the story was, the guy started in his garage or whatever, and if you had invested, bought one share, you'd be a quadruple billionaire or whatever. But whatever, I don't know. They might have peaked by now. I don't even know who. Dell may even be owned by someone else, or Lexmark, or
I don't think they're as popular as they once were.
IBM, something.
I haven't bought a computer in, like I said, a decade, so I really wouldn't know.
Yeah, I just get mine from work and just get like Windows, Surface tablets, stuff like that. But remember, back then it was like gateway computers, and it was like kind of catchy because they had the box was like a cow.
Yep.
Like, oh, that screams high quality technology, like a cow box on my computer.
That was back when connecting to the internet sounded like you were in a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah, you had to have a lot of patience back then. But it was just built into the experience was I'm gonna connect to the internet and go make myself a snack while I connect to the internet. All right, let's get started. You ready, Robbie?
Ready. All set.
All right. Let me get you guys on the screen here. All right. 3, 2, 1. Good evening, Endless Ranters. Welcome back for episode 143 of your Endless Ranters podcast. Thanks for listening, watching, and subscribing. We truly appreciate the support. My name is Chris. I'm one of your hosts for this evening. The one and only Robbie Spotlight is back again. What up, Robbie?
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
It's going pretty good. And as you noticed, Quana and Manny are taking the night off. They got plans. I think I remember they got good plans, I think. But we have better plans because we've got a special guest host. I'm going to call it guest host because he'll be very picking some of the topics so we don't have to tonight. It's Russ.
Howdy, everyone.
Russ is from the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast. You've seen him before. I think he's joined us at least a couple times before.
Yep. We've done a couple of crossovers.
Yeah, to educate us on things. So yeah, Two Grumpy Bastards podcast. Been a little hiatus, but I heard good things coming back soon.
Yep. Coop and I have been talking, and we are expecting within the week to bring the Bastards back.
Nice.
Cool.
The Bastards are back in town.
I think Coop is holding off I think for a new, like he's working on a deal, like maybe a raise from you or something. I don't know. He needs a raise.
Oh yeah.
He's going to be in for a shock because
he was a holdout. He was a free agent holdout. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
When that happens.
Yeah.
Well, I'm anxious to hear what his cover story is, because I'm sure he was off somewhere, defeating the new face of Al Qaeda or something.
Exactly.
Like that.
Yep. So Coop will reveal all when we return.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Looking forward.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah. So for tonight, we don't have too much other than the whole world to discuss. We're going to drill down on all the crazy stuff that's going on around the world with Russ. Talk about World War III. I said to Rob, I was like, I'm just going to say World War III and let Russ go for a couple hours.
I probably could.
Look,
Russ is also going to tell us why everything's going to be okay.
If you need a second military expert, I'm also somewhat of a military expert. I've got a few fun facts, World War I and II. Let me give you the first one.
Please do.
Did you know that tanks had genders? Did you know that? At the beginning of the war, this is a World War One, beginning WW1. Tanks were grouped according to their gender. So this wouldn't fly today. The male tanks had cannons attached, while the female carried machine guns. The prototype tank was named Little Willie. Does that sound accurate? Do you know? Have you heard about that?
I have not heard about that.
They both sound like males.
They would all be considered trans tanks.
That's right. I need someone to fact check me. So
they both sound like tanks to me. They both had guns. I thought there was one was gonna pull like some kind of carrier behind it that you just put things into.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that that you put a bunch of men into. Like that would be the female, like the.
Yeah.
Anyway. I do know the first tanks, they didn't mass them together the way they do today. They tried to use them in individual spots and use them as breach weapons for the infantry, and they thought the tanks were of limited use.
Sure.
Okay.
Plus, I'm sure they were crazy expensive at first, and it was like, "Hey, boss, I think what we should do is have 10 tanks with this unit." Like, oh, well, you're gonna get one.
Yeah,
crazy expensive.
They just didn't know what to do with them. It'd be like, handing folks today a bunch of phasers or a Klingon warbird or something.
Yeah. But yeah, we learn.
Klingon bird of prey. Sorry, Trekkies. It's the Romulan warbird.
I remember back in the first Gulf War days, there was just all if you watch 2020 or Nightline, it was just all day. They were showing those Abrams tanks. If I'm hopefully I'm getting it right. It was like an M something, just going 55 miles an hour and flying over desert berms and shooting in the air. I'm sure that's probably not the best practice, is going full speed, jumping a sand berm,
but shooting
mid-flight and then firing around while you're in the air. But they would do it.
It works. And it's, I was a high school senior when the first Gulf War kicked off. And so most teenagers back then, I didn't have a clue as to what it was about or what it was like. Looking back, the first Gulf War, it was almost as if somebody said, hey, the United States needs to have a war. Design one for yourself. I mean, it was tailor-made for us to kick the enemy's ass. Everything from the tank and the standoff. You know what standoff range is on the tank? The Iraqis T-72s could reach out to about 2,300 meters.
Oh, shit.
The M1A1 can reach out and touch you at 4,000 meters, which in the desert, when you can see that far, is great. It's like the old Little Rascals cartoon of the bully holding Spanky out while Spanky's swinging and can't hit him. So we could reach out and touch the Iraqis, and they couldn't even get close.
Oh, okay. It's as close as Alaska is to Russia.
Well, can you see it from your house?
So last week we were talking a little bit about I don't know. I was I don't remember what I was talking about last week. I know I started talking about country music and patriotism and I don't know if we talked about it much, but that's a subject that I kind of talk about. How do you explain some of these things to young children? Because I remember growing up with my dad was Korean. My mom was, American white woman, whatever, but super patriotic.
Usually you see the opposite of that. Usually you see the Korean woman and the white dad.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. It's a different story. My dad came over here, I guess as the Korean War was ending, he came over here and stayed and kind of was adopted by a family, American family, and they just lived in in North Carolina for several years, and they moved to Maryland.
I spent one tour in South Korea in 99 and 2000.
Yeah. So, yeah, but how do you explain these things? My dad was super patriotic. He listened to conservative talk radio,
Well, what I've discovered is usually if you've lived somewhere else for an extended period of time, or you visited another nation outside of the tourist areas, you tend to gain a much greater appreciation for the United States. I've been to, I believe, 14 different countries, and I've never encountered one quite like the United States. I've encountered a couple that are close. Australia is close. Germany is close, but they still don't even quite match up.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember my experience was when I was 19 or 20, and I just decided I was going to backpack in Europe one summer by myself. And bought a plane ticket like through a travel agent by myself,
Yeah.
and like bought a Eurail pass somehow, like through a travel agent, so I could just ride on the train. Like this is back before there was internet really. You just had to do all this stuff and have like a thing mailed to you.
Mhm.
Paper ticket.
Yeah, but I remember
Yeah.
like, at that point, like I was young and stupid and rebellious and, kind of questioning all the stuff that, was rammed down my throat, like patriotism and all that kind of thing. And I was like, I'm going to go over there. And as part of it, it was also like at that point, I hadn't really had a lot of challenges in my life. So, like physical challenges. So I was like, I want to put myself in a situation where like I don't have any help. Because I want to put myself in a situation that's opposite of what I am today, which is like completely,
Hampered.
cushioned, I wouldn't say pampered, but like I had a like, safety net for sure. Like not a gilded one, but a safety net. So I did that and, with kind of like negative feelings. But then man, when I was there, I was like, man, this whole place is really inconvenient. Like you gotta
Yeah.
like they don't have like they don't have shit here. Like you got a long way to get stuff here. Like I'm like the things you're just used to having, like at any point, like just I'm not talking about luxury. I'm talking about things just being close to you.
Yep.
Like a lumber, like a hardware store, or like a convenience store, a gas station, grocery market, like just being close to you. And it's like, oh no,
Yeah.
like this place is not designed for that. Maybe, probably more so now, but yeah, no, not at all. So
Outside of the
I just came back loving, loving the United States so much, so I really
outside
had
of
a great
outside of the
appreciation.
patriotic freedom things, there's other things like you were mentioning. I mean, free refills. They don't do that in Europe.
Yeah.
Free refills is a thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a good
milk
point.
by the gallon as opposed to by the little itty bitty bottle.
Like a liter. Yeah.
How about me? I go to, I used to go a lot to, Guatemala, visit family, and public restrooms. You'll find them. They even have like restrooms where you can go and pay to
The
use
pay
the
toilets.
restroom. Yeah, and as soon as you pay your buck or whatever, they'll hand you a couple of a little bit of toilet paper. Here you go. And if you want some more, you have to pay extra. And the paper's not that great. The toilets aren't great either. Yeah. So you miss
I think
those
I would
sorts
as an
things.
adult, I'd appreciate that more, that like someone had to like, like come out of pocket a little bit to use this restroom for me.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
not some, hobo.
Mhm.
But when I was backpacking and experiencing that, I was like, man, this is a real hardship, because I got to have coins.
Yeah.
I'm on limited funds here. So I got to pay to have pay to take a dump. It's kind of rough, but yeah, they have weird bathroom things over there overseas, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, there's a nicer, finer things as well. Sure. But you don't see it as much as the United States. Another thing that I miss is like even public transportation. Like you can drive it anywhere, right? Driving. But if you want to take the train or a bus or whatever, I'd rather just drive because of safety issues.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need to really worry about too much safety here.
Yeah, I don't. In order, I think the three worst countries that I've driven in. Number 3 was South Korea, where you can fit. They fit 5 lanes of traffic into 4 lanes. The exits don't make sense, and I've seen guys riding down the sidewalk with a moped and a refrigerator on the back. Number 2 was Saudi Arabia, because, well, a couple of things. The way that they learn to drive in Saudi Arabia is not within the lane. They learn to drive by the dotted line down the road. You put that in the middle of your car, and that's how you drive.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if your turn is up there a little ways, it's no problem for you to come back and drive half a mile back the wrong way on the road. So that's a little bit, heart in, they'll do some palpitations.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the number one worst place I've ever seen traffic in my entire life was Manila. And what I had to do after the first time I was there was sit in the back and go to sleep and pretend like nothing's going on around me because the guy up there is driving. I guess he knows how to do stuff, but Manila is, I mean, like if you went over in the lane, you don't look over and just kind of merge over. You beep and you go. And if there's a car in that spot, that's too bad for that car. I mean, they'll fit 8 lanes of traffic into 4 lanes, and it's going, 80 miles an hour.
It's cool how those systems work, though. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously they probably have a lot more accidents than we do, but like for the most, at the same time, most people still just make it through that because they're just on guard all the time.
Yeah, most people make it through. There was the time we were going up to a place near Cabanatuan where some bus and some motorcycle got into a fight and the bus won.
Yeah.
What was left on the sidewalk of the motorcycle rider looked like a watermelon, or after you smash a watermelon.
Well, yeah. I just saw this video. I forget where, but it just came up on my YouTube today where this car, I think, was being chased by the police, and it hits another car, and then it hits a pedestrian, and it hits this brick building, like a 2-story building, and then the building, for the most part, collapses on top of both cars. It's in the United States. But man, that must have been a hard impact, or the house must have been not that great quality either. It looked like an old little brick house.
I saw an impact video today where they did a car hitting, I don't know if it was a steel pole or something. They did demonstrations between either 20 or 30 miles an hour up to 250 miles an hour. It's interesting to see what happens to the car at those speeds.
Yeah. Okay.
Is the one you saw in Baltimore, Rob? Was that what you're talking about?
It looked like it would be Baltimore.
Oh, it
might be.
I think it was. I saw that one. Yeah. The car got T-boned and then went into a building, and that building had already been condemned. It had a graffiti all over. It just fell down. So
and a pedestrian also got
condemned.
Yeah. And a pedestrian got killed also with all the debris that came down on him. It's pretty sad.
They'll be able to gentrify that area a little bit cheaper now.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the demo work's already done.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah.
But back, so so like patriotism, like I really, I guess maybe it's always been that way. Like you're trying to figure out how to explain that to your kids, like why, but now it's more about ideals, like the ideals that the country's built on, a little bit less about like what we're up to. Well,
I actually do take some time to explain to my daughters what American exceptionalism is. And it's different than hey, I was born here, so therefore we're awesome. I talk about the system of rugged individualism, private property rights, the ability to engage, how economic freedom and personal freedom are intertwined, and it's axiomatic that you can't have one without the other, mostly so they understand it. That's one issue. And then the other ones that my daughters hate, my oldest hates, my youngest hasn't grown to hate it yet, but she will, is I ingrain in my daughters the 3 rules in life to not be poor. And I can recite it to you by heart, which is finish high school, don't have babies until you're married, and get and keep a job, any job. You do that, 95% of the people who do that will not be poor. All I gotta do is look at my daughter and say the 3 rules, and she rolls her eyes. Dad, it's this, I know.
Yeah. Well, one of the rules that I'm going to give for my daughter is do not date one of those guys that does
heroin.
The sideshows. The donuts in the middle of the street. Yeah, please don't date one of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter today explained that she will not go out with a guy that has greasy hair, dirty hands, or who smells.
That's good. There's some good values to instill. So yeah, that's a good point. Like talk about like the things that are special about America that I think kind of get forgotten. Yeah, this whole free speech, and like other countries, free speech is not a thing. Like that's not like there's nothing in their laws that says it's, these things come from God or the creator or anything like that. It's just free speech is basically just what this committee says it is. That
even places that we thought were free. I mean, they arrest people in Britain now if you silently pray outside of an abortion clinic. And in Canada, they can throw you in jail for not using someone's preferred pronouns. They can compel speech. And it truly is what Ronald Reagan said, which is, if we lose freedom in the United States, there is nowhere to go. There's nowhere to flee to. We're it.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess that's if you're looking for things, you got to really stay positive about it. It's all of that. I guess to me, it's like in this right now, my son, it comes up because my son is asking me about Ukraine. For some reason, he's just like, what's going on? Is who's winning? That's his question. Who's winning?
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, well, how much time
complicated.
You got? How much time you got? Because this is and it's like I really do. I really try to like be very thorough and explain things to my son. It's his age, and like as real as I can. So I don't want to just be a bunch of fluff. Like, oh, these guys are bad, these guys are good, and I'm trying to explain it, and it gets pretty just keeps going another layer, like another deeper layer of that. Yeah. So I don't know. And so you're trying to like talk about the exceptionalism, the things that we've done that have been that make us so special, but then it's like we're also doing some stuff that's like, man, this is kind of what all the assholes do too, like,
yeah,
this is not so special about us. But I don't know, you try to there are different schools of thought as far as foreign policy and like what we should be trying to do out there in the world to keep Americans safe, and sometimes that's instigating. Maybe there's seems to be some people out there that sometimes think that it's better for our long-term interest to like instigate others to fight, and maybe we get involved, and that's what's happening now, I guess.
I think the key is to remember that it's got to be what is in America's interest. That should be what guides our foreign policy, not some Wilsonian BS ideal that, hey, it sounds good on paper, but it doesn't necessarily benefit the United States. We still live in a tribal world, even if we call those tribes nations, and we need to do what's best for America. And then we can look to the rest of the world. Now, a lot of stuff, decimating the Russian military without spilling a drop of American blood is probably pretty good for the United States. Yeah. Assuming that there's some kind of off ramp, because you can't, Russia may have a second rate military that sucks, but they've also still got about 20,000 nuclear warheads. And, that's going to have to come into play at some point.
Yeah. I also think that like, you're also, the people there in their country are not, a bunch of like, millennials, right? They're kind of like, they're getting aggravated. And when they get aggravated, they're not just, some of them are, want to go against their government or Putin, whatever, but most of them that just kind of builds support for their regime.
Yeah, we got to remember the Russians have never backed out of a war where they haven't lost at least 500,000 people. Right now, they've lost about 100 to 140,000, I think.
Yeah, that goes to something else, like how it's being framed in Western headlines, because every, I'm a serial news reader, so maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it seems like it's 5 to 1, 10 to 1, maybe even like where it's like every headline seems really like negative for Russia, like all the troops they've lost and how they're running out of tanks and they can't build, but then there's the one I'm talking about. The one article is like, oh, the Russians just took this area back.
Yeah, well,
like, hold on here. I thought they were losing, and now but then this one here says they basically just had a pretty good week.
Yeah, they took about between 20 and 25% of Ukraine, and they've lost about a third of it back to the Ukrainians. I think the Ukrainians fighting within their own territory is fine. If they enter Russian territory, or they decide that they're going to try to take back Crimea, which Russia considers part of Russia now, that's where the Russian military doctrine is based on a concept called escalate to de-escalate. You do something that's going to make the world, basically gasp in the hopes that they back down. And that would possibly be the use of a tactical battlefield nuclear weapon. If they do that, the world's going to hold its collective breath for a few minutes. Because if this was a conventional fight, Russia is trying to fight World War II style stuff. Their logistical supply trains suck. Their communication sucks. They can't coordinate their artillery. Their tanks are no match. In a conventional fight, they're horrible. They took a lot of the territory at the beginning because the Ukrainians were not as prepared as they should have been, and they weren't getting the weapons from us until later, which there are a couple of ancillary side benefits to our participation in Ukraine, one of which is the ability to practice logistics in real time for real war. We're actually practicing how to resupply without having to resupply our own troops. And the other, on a geopolitical level, is the message it's sending to China. Because, first of all, I don't think Putin goes into Ukraine if Joe Biden doesn't bend over and decide to take us out of Afghanistan in the way that he did. That's a whole other conversation. It's very complex about how we could have done that a lot better. But he thought we weren't going to do anything. And I think that if Putin had taken Ukraine right off the bat within the first month or two, I think we'd already be looking at China having gone into Taiwan. And whether we like it or not, if China goes into Taiwan, that is World War III.
Yeah, that'll be that's just like ultimate stratego or chess or whatever with that, because it's China just, I don't know, part of their strategy is like they don't really like, they just want to wait till the time is right to make it easy. Like, so they don't really want to do it at a time where they may have to fight. They'll just bide their time. So I don't know.
There's a few things weighing into China. One of which is that because of the one-child
maybe
policy,
they can't bide their time. Yeah, maybe they're on borrowed time. Yeah,
but because of the one-child policy and the demographic collapse due to the preference for male children, I mean, they've got millions more men than they do women. So if they lose a couple million folks, I don't know if it's that bad a thing for Xi.
Well, to go back to Russia's strategy, and they have something in common with China. It's like when your country and your populace and like you control the media, and you really don't have to worry about the loss of human life. Like that's a hell of an advantage to have when like you're just like, what's another 50,000 troops? Whereas like us as Americans, it's like, one, two, three, like they start talking in like the thousands. It's like, oh shit, that's like that's going to start every nightly news broadcast. Like,
well, imagine how we'd react to the Battle of Bull Run today, where they, later in the Civil War when you lost 10,000 soldiers on each side in a day.
Yeah, they still have kind of an old school mentality, and we don't, or the population doesn't. Yeah. Yeah. Our commanders may have a different feeling if the shit really went down, but yeah, that's just like one of our major disadvantages, that we have to care, or pretend to care at least, or.
Well, I've always wondered how capable a free market democracy with access to 24/7 news cycles is capable of fighting a war that is not one of survival. For an extended period of time. I don't know that we can do it for an extended period of time. And we've only fought 2 wars of survival in our existence. That was World War II and the Civil War. Beyond that, they haven't been existential threats.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing is weird too, because I don't know that, I think we think of this in terms of, I'm just speaking for myself, because I kind of try to be honest with where my head goes. And like, we start to think of this as like a classic war where Russia wants to take Ukraine and make Ukraine Russia. But I don't know that they really, like, to them, it's not that distinct, or it's not that black and white. For them, it's like, no, we just want to kind of like have a bigger say in their politics. Like, of course, we have no problem with there being a Ukraine, but obviously these border areas, we'd like to have that. We'd like to have those. We'd like to feel better with more buffer. But I don't know. Or it's like they're just trying to send a message like, don't become a NATO. Don't become a member of NATO. Don't become a NATO of the European Union or whatever it might be. Like, what Russia wants in the end is not, but maybe politically control of Ukraine, but they don't really want to like destroy Ukraine. Like, we're more willing to have more. We are more willing to have casualties there than I think they are.
I think there's 2 things in play. The first is that Putin does want to rebuild the old Soviet Union. He was part of the KGB when the Soviet Union was a thing, and I think that he feels that loss of pride and international respect.
You always got to be growing. You always got to be growing. Never feels good to shrink, right?
And the second thing that you touched on briefly when you talked about the buffers, is the Russian mindset is always based on paranoia, brought on by two main events: the invasion of Napoleon around 1812, and the invasion by Germany in the summer of 1941. So their whole foreign policy, I mean, that's what the Warsaw Pact was. It wasn't because they wanted to conquer these nations. They wanted a buffer between their hostile adversaries and the Russian motherland. So their paranoia almost led to the outbreak of World War III in 1983, when we went through a military exercise called Able Archer, where the Soviets thought it was a cover for starting World War III, and they almost attacked into Western Germany as a result. We didn't find it out for about 15 years, but they're all paranoid about everybody's going to come in and take them over, despite the fact that the land they are on is not the most desirable on the planet.
Actually, Russ, you just reminded me. Summer of 1941, not my favorite Bryan Adams song, but a little fun fact about paranoia. In America, suspicion of the Germans was so high that even the German Shepherd dogs were killed. Did you know that?
That's messed up.
Yeah, the names Frankfurters, hamburgers, sauerkraut, and
like he could know hot dog.
They were all changed to American names. So
freedom dog, freedom fries.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You see how history repeats itself. Yeah. So another fun fact.
A fun fact I posted today. This is slightly veering off topic, but because you mentioned the German Shepherds, was at the beginning of the COVID crisis, the UK briefly contemplated killing all the cats in the country.
Oh man!
I see it. Yeah,
They might have been vectors of disease.
Yeah,
well,
it's from
Time
magazine.
I think that was just some dude in the office was like, watch me. I'm gonna really like Mary and Elizabeth over there gonna freak out. Watch this.
He was a dog guy.
Hey, I think that cats are a danger. We should kill all the cats for COVID. Like, oh my God. Just kidding.
People would have thought we were really back at the Black Death.
That's they kill. What did they kill all the cats and dogs? Or they killed the cats and then the rats just took over and it got worse.
Oh yeah. So the human race almost went extinct due to its own stupidity.
Because they were like, those cats sure do look evil.
Let me put
all because cats are some
back on.
All because of some cats aren't very friendly. You know what I mean? Some cats are nice, but some cats, won't give you the time of day. It's like, kill them all. So, but what about are Ukrainians like? It's a weird area though, right? Because it's an area that is like we've had turmoil in our country, but once, and there's a conflict, but over territory or who's part of what country in our civil war. But for them, that area of the world has just been
a bad neighborhood.
Just a lot of people always passing through, trying to setting up shop, thinking, we like to control this area. This is pretty good. Russia may not be great. No one wants to take over Russia, but it sure seems like a lot of people would like to take over Ukraine, and us included.
You got Ukraine and Poland right in the middle between Russia and Germany.
Yeah.
Not the safest of neighborhoods in the world.
Yeah. I was trying to as my son and I were talking, I was kind of thinking about that's where the border is. At some point for us, I don't know if it's the American experience, at least at somewhere there's a border, at all times, there's a very important border going on, maybe multiple, that's maybe the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan or whatever it was, the border between Iraq and Kuwait, Maryland and Pennsylvania.
Well, Americans,
South Korea, Ukraine, and Russia, we just keep the border has to be somewhere, and then something has to be fought at that spot. Not our own borders, of course. Yeah.
The problem is that Americans like nice, clean lines on maps. It allows them the delusion that the world is an orderly place.
It's a Western thing, right? That's a Western civilization type of.
Yeah, but a lot of the world, despite the fact that we have borders on our globes we can point to, the borders don't really exist. They're familial, they're tribal, but we like to point to them because we can say, "Oh, it lets me sleep at night that there's borders in the world, and the world has order."
That's a natural part. That's just a part of the human condition, I think, that civilizations evolved to have territory, to have lines, to have clear rules, things that are, I've always like, we love predictable, like and borders and all these rules that we keep like allowing to be heaped on us. It's crazy, but we think it makes our life more predictable, so we accept all these crazy rules and laws on us.
Well, I find it funny that the human race, when we're in our own bubble, we like predictable, but we're dealing with a completely unpredictable species. I mean, you're predictable but when you know what you want, but somebody else who wants something else, that's completely unpredictable.
Yeah.
So we're trying to merge two worlds here.
There's a line from Men in Black, the first one. A person is smart. People are stupid. People are stupid.
Good movie. Good movie.
Yeah, there's certain lines from movies like that. That's just like certain lines. Like, man, the first I was like, oh yeah, I'm never gonna forget that.
Yep.
But like Ukrainians and Russians, so like, are they? There's another part that maybe we don't understand, that like some people in that area, it's like a sliding scale of like it's not you're American or you're Canadian. Like it's kind of like there's like a weird sliding scale in there where it's like some people might kind of feel like they're both, or like the whole like Zelensky or whatever. Like I don't know. I think it's true that he spoke Russian. Like he was born in Ukraine. He's Ukrainian, but he grew up speaking Russian. But I don't think it's that, maybe it's not that far off from Ukrainian, but when he became president, he had to kind of learn Ukrainian or kind of learn, to start speaking a little bit differently, which it's not English and Spanish and that kind of thing, but it's just kind of part of that culture in that area is, your national identity is kind of maybe not even a normal thing in that area, to have a national identity like we do.
The allegiances are different too, because you got to remember when Germany invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, the Ukrainians originally welcomed them as liberators. Like, oh, the Russians were oppressing us, the Soviets were oppressing us, and now here come our German liberators, which works great right up until the point when the Nazis decided to start setting up death camps and shooting Ukrainians by the hundreds.
Yeah. It's something for Americans, at least, like that. Rob, he's multicultural, really. Like he's lived in 2 different countries and kind of experiences things more. But for like Americans like myself, like that, I never experienced things like Rob did, at least to be exposed to different things when you were younger. I guess maybe a little bit because my dad and my stepmom were Korean, but like we don't understand, like we don't appreciate that, like we've had very clear loyalties, and as Americans, our whole we were British and we were part of the British, whatever, and then we broke from them, so they were very clear enemies, with clear allies, and then but in other parts of the world, it's just very it's not like a nation like we think of. It's I don't know, I'm not sure how to explain it.
Well, if you ever want to see the concept of dual loyalties in the United States, go to a United States-Mexico World Cup soccer qualifier in Los Angeles or Dallas.
Yeah.
Can I give you guys
white fans don't make a lot of noise either. No. It's like they're just like, yeah, have you tasted the pizza? The pizza is excellent here. It's a good value. Meanwhile, Mexican guys are like, like have maracas and shit.
Yeah, the vuvuzela.
Yeah. I'm just like, these wings are pretty hot.
Yeah, this Budweiser.
Budweiser. They do say it better. Budweiser.
Another fun fact that Russ reminded me: Liberator. It's the name of also a sex furniture wedge kind of pillow type of furniture.
What?
Yeah, it's called. I don't know why, but it's called a Liberator.
It's ironic because it was created by Germans, I'm sure.
You're gonna have to find out the function of a Liberator. You can't just go with that small description and leave us hanging.
Look it up.
I don't think so.
Function. There's a function. It's a
I'll look it up from somebody else's computer. I ain't gonna do it from my own.
Yeah, the ladies, they can look it up. They know what I'm talking about.
Rob, keep springing some fun facts on us. I'll be right back.
All right, Russ. Back to my fun facts. Did you know that also World War I, women's skin turned yellow in the skin of many of the women that were working during the war, it was because of the TNT, right? It turned their skin yellow as a result, as they suffered through, I guess, toxic jaundice, right? So that's what happens, right? Because of the toxic chemicals.
Yeah, if your body can't remove the bilirubin, your skin and your eyes will turn yellow.
Oh shoot! Now, can you kind of cleanse that out? Does it,
Well, as long as you're away, if you're away from it and you have a normal functioning liver,
Yeah.
yes, it will remove itself. If your liver stops working, or if you are a child with a condition called biliary atresia, then your liver is not working and you will reach toxic bilirubin levels that can start to suffocate your brain. So that would require a liver transplant. But if you're away from it long enough, and as long as everything's working, it will eventually flush out of your system.
Okay. All right. Or if you buy one of those Herbalife teas, I'm sure if you drink enough tea, right?
Only if it's green tea, because green and yellow makes blue.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was hanging with a Marine buddy of mine today from work.
Hey, you told me that. You texted me that you were with him. So what's going on with him?
Yeah, no. Sometimes he listens. I don't think he's watching live right now, but yeah, he was Marines, but then afterwards he joined the Air Force, which people do, right? Sometimes
I've known a few folks the folks I've seen went Air Force to Army. I don't think I've ever seen anybody go Marines to Air Force.
I think he did Marines, then Air Force. From what I understand, he did he was a helicopter mechanic. I'm not exactly. We don't really talk. We don't really sit and talk war. I'm not like a fanboy.
He didn't tell you what his favorite flavor of crayon was.
He did not. He laughed. He got a good chuckle. He goes, "Oh, I don't know where that came from." But I said, "But you've heard of that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've heard of that." But he did not.
Yeah, one of the things we always give the Marines a hard time about is them eating crayons, and then they give us a hard time about us not being tough enough.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then we all give them, the Air Force, a hard time about their deployments involve butlers, slippers, and a chocolate fountain.
Yeah.
Oh, Russ, my nephew was accepted into West Point.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Is that good?
That's exceptional. Yes.
Okay. Excellent. All right.
Now, the only thing he's going to have to watch out for is when he goes to his officer basic course after West Point. A lot of the folks that got in trouble were West Pointers because they were so restricted at the point that when they finally got out of the point, they were the ones to go wild at their first duty station.
Oh, I don't know. I think he also was sponsored or something. Whatever. He's holding out for the Naval Academy. Sorry.
He likes boats.
I think his goal. He wants to be a doctor. So
I thought he liked to be in big, long, hard tubes full of semen.
I think he really wants to be a doctor. So he's kind of looking at it that.
Who's going to let him go to medical school? Yeah.
Yeah. What's the fastest route to medical school? Yeah.
But he'll still have to give some time to the Navy or the Army, whoever lets him go.
With the least chance of like having to learn in Fallujah or something.
I never went to West Point. I got my scholarship through. I got my commission through ROTC with the mighty App State Mountaineers.
He's a great kid. I mean, he's just exceptional at everything. So it's like
you have to be to get into West Point.
Yeah, it's not surprising. Yeah, just one of those kind of kids. So
everybody might give him a hard time, but West Point is as selective as places like Vanderbilt or Duke. It's hard to get into.
Yeah. Anyway, so you had some fun facts there, Rob.
Yeah,
you didn't use them all up, did you?
No. I've got more. I mean, if you guys want, I've got. I think I've got some World War II.
You did some research today, yeah?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I got to come prepared. I mean, I didn't do. I already knew these facts. Yeah, that's the ticket.
You already knew all these things.
Yeah, I didn't print them out.
I didn't look them up. They were just ingrained knowledge.
Need a refresher.
Yeah.
You had a bookmark, so yeah.
I didn't use my work computer to print all this out.
Just to show you how big a dork I am. My second date with my wife, went to her place. Her and her best friend were there, and we had dinner, and then we played a game of Trivial Pursuit afterwards. My wife has refused to play me in Trivial Pursuit ever since.
Just don't mess with me.
Are you a sore winner?
Yeah, when it comes to like movies, that's I don't know. That's all I know. Movies.
I got some movie knowledge too.
Oh, you know what? I don't. We've talked before, but this is what I wanted to kind of pick your brain about. You and Coop, you guys like sci-fi, right? You guys talk sci-fi as well.
We love it.
Yeah. So, what would you think, in your opinion, would be the most realistic, not war movie, but sort of sci-fi war movie? What Yeah. What do you think? What kind of stands out to you?
See, that's hard in sci-fi because sci-fi always deals with concepts of physics and stuff that we aren't quite there on.
Yeah.
Or it may be impossible. I mean, all the faster than light travel is not supposed to be theoretically realistic.
Yeah. Or what about this?
Well, more like the life of the soldier in science fiction. I don't even know if these would rank, but like I'm thinking about the newer Battlestar Galactica, which is kind of like those.
That one probably, I can tell you which one was one of the least realistic.
Yeah.
And that was Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Everybody watches it for the shower scene, and that's great. But the rest of it, they had no concept of combined arms. They had no concept of support and maneuver. But again,
they had some sweet slogans though, man. They all said really funny, awesome things as they raced into battle.
But this is why my friends don't like watching anything even remotely related to the military with me, because I'm like, that's wrong. Yeah. We wouldn't do it like that. And my mantra to some of my other friends have been, put me in the world of The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones, and I'll rule it with an iron fist. Because I watched those things, and boy, do their tactics suck.
Yeah.
Like, any halfway competent, even partially trained soldier could take over one of those groups, and they would wipe out the other forces in days.
But then you'd have to leave because it's the groups that make you weak and like make you stupid and make you start doing really stupid things.
Well, you just have to leave because the shows end up getting so bad that you leave it.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Well, that show, Walking Dead, it's gonna have more spin-offs.
Yeah, but it got, I don't know, it got really. I'm still annoyed that they did not have Rick Grimes come back for the actual show itself.
Yeah. I thought he would be back, at least the last episode,
What they should have done, and this is the snob in me talking, is the last scene, you have one of the Civic Republic helicopters land. Rick and Michonne get out. There's the happy reunion. They say, "Where have you been?" He says, "Well, it's a long story." And then it fades off into the sky. And that's how you start the Rick and Michonne series.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate I don't appreciate entertainment without happy endings.
I agree.
Because like, what's your problem? Director, writer, producer, what's your problem? Like,
they're trying to be deep.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not, like I like deep, but then at the very end, like the last 10 seconds, give me everybody lived and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the way it should. I mean, my mantra when I write is there's some stuff that I write, some of my novels, they get pretty dark at times. But I always say you have to have a dark story to justify the ending. And the ending needs to be bright. And most people want happy endings, but most directors and things, they want to have this gritty, kind of, I can show you how deep I can think ending. And I'm just not into that. If I want a crappy world, I'm going to look outside. When I go to my stories, I want to escape.
Yeah. I thought it was like, at first they did it and it was like, it was kind of novel because it's like, what? Oh, wow. What a novel ending where the couple dies or, it's like Romeo, whatever.
It was novel at
like,
first.
Oh, wow. Now it's like every other movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what was it? Sixth Sense? Yeah. Like where, he's just dead. Oh, that's really clever. It's really also pretty, it's pretty sad.
Well, what about what do you guys think about this ending? You guys have seen No Country for Old Men, right?
I have not.
I have, but I think I really only watched that movie one time. Yeah.
I know who's in it, but I haven't ever seen it.
Yeah. Okay, that one's got an ending where my parents saw it. I was like, I was excited to show them the movie, and then after watching the movie, my brother said he texted me. He goes, "Yeah, they didn't like it because in the end, it didn't turn out how they wanted it. But it gave you one of those endings where this could have happened. Like this person could have taken the money, but was it this person? I don't know. Make up your own conclusion. That was one of those.
Yeah. No, I paid you to make a conclusion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I really hate
Yeah.
that. I think one of the,
Yeah.
like, was it like, the last, what was the Day of the Soldado or whatever? What was that?
Oh,
Sicario? Like
Sicarios, yeah. I forget the
it
second
wasn't, it
movie.
wasn't the
Yeah.
first one, but it was the second one that
Yeah.
ended like that, which
Day of
was
the
just like,
Soldier,
man,
yeah.
screw you. Like,
Did you ever? Any of y'all ever see the movie The Good Son?
Yeah.
Yes,
Macaulay Culkin. Yeah.
Macaulay Culkin right after Home Alone and stuff. That's
Mhm.
That's one of the first movies I saw where it didn't have the happy ending because she ended up dropping her son off a cliff at the end and he got washed out in the ocean. Kind of messed me up a little bit.
Oh shoot, I forgot that part. So she drops the actual son.
Well, because she's holding on to Macaulay
both of
Culkin
them.
and
Elijah Wood.
the one that played in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
Elijah Wood.
Elijah
Right?
Wood, yeah.
Yeah.
Frodo.
And, he's like, and because Macaulay Culkin had tried to push the mom off the cliff, and Elijah Wood's like, "I'm slipping, I can't hold on." And Macaulay Culkin's like, "I love you, mom," and she just looks at him and says, "I'm sorry," and she drops him and pulls Elijah Wood up, and you see his body on the rocks, and then here comes the waves in and washes his body back out. And I just walked out. I was like, "Damn, that kind of messed me up."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nowadays
know what
you're just
kind of
like, oh, I saw that. That was on NBC News last night. Some crazy mom in Virginia, decided to drown her kids.
Well, speaking of crazy moms, you know what messed me up also, and I mean this is more of it's not much of a manly movie, but remember The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and yeah, she was man, right?
But at least you know what happened there. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
but no,
Yeah.
but she's at one point she's breastfeeding the woman's daughter, the baby that she's taking care of. I'm like, dude, like, I don't know. I would have been mad. I mean, I was mad watching the movie, and I was like 15.
Nowadays, you'd be mad, but believe it or not, they actually did used to have wet nurses in towns because not every woman could breastfeed.
But she did it against behind
trying
her back.
To form a bond.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Trying to form that bond. Yeah. Oh, I got mad.
There was a movie that was based on a book, maybe, and it was like it was a soldier. Yeah. It was a soldier. It was like a young woman that was betrayed. The soldier goes off to war. It's like for some reason, but then like at the end, the soldier dies, and I was like, what the? I remember watching it with my wife. I was like, what? Like it was that was the turning to me. I'll try to remember what it was called. It was like there was some famous.
You described a lot of soldiers' experience on deployment.
Oh yeah,
it was like, man, I think it was probably World War I. Famous actress, maybe Dakota Fanning was the young daughter that told a secret, and then the older sister is like waiting for the soldier gets sent off to war. You see him in war; he's like a hero, but then he's injured at the end. And then you like they read all the letters and then whatever, and then the soldier just dies. It's like, oh. Like they kind of had, it was the kind of the movie like 10 years before that movie would have ended up with, some miraculous stroke of luck where the woman goes to like a field and finds him, in the field of like thousands of other injured soldiers and finds him and then they get married. Like, no, they just let him die off. And then I'm just like, what the? And this is one of those really long ass movies too. It's like, it was a chick flick,
Well, speaking of deployment and also Walking Dead, remember the very first and second episode, right? Rick, he goes into a coma. He wakes up from a coma. He's in a coma for about 30 days. Okay, cut to Shane, his best friend. Yeah, and he's over there sleeping with Rick's wife, and she doesn't even wait for him. Not even like a month. I think it's been like 30 days, and she's already banging him in the woods.
I think she assumed he was dead, but at the same time, you'd think that she'd grieve for just a little bit.
Yeah, you think, right? You would like that at least, just grieve a little bit, or at least pretend.
Well,
if
she
I'm
got
watching,
hers in the end.
yeah, she did.
Yeah, it reminds me
Well, I
of
mean, it's not. Yeah, I was gonna say it's not like he went out for cigarettes and didn't come back. It's like he was in a coma.
and the zombie apocalypse happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And the power went out, so it's safe to assume, like, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, I would expected her to like see a body. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you don't get to like go off with Shane until you see my body, like see my corpse or see me as a zombie or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. They did have to retreat into the wilderness to avoid the hordes of zombies in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now granted, you'd want to avoid hordes in Atlanta even today.
Right now, exactly.
Well, the great part about that show, I don't know. I mean, they were basing it on comics, but the first season was basically like, well, we have, I don't know if a second season will ever come about, so we can kind of take. We don't really need to, have a tight story.
Well,
and it's about the 6 episodes as well, I think.
Well, the story as the show evolved, it wasn't what I tried to explain to my parents because they didn't want to watch it. They're like, I don't like zombies. I was like, I don't either. That wasn't what I was into at first, but it wasn't a show about zombies. It was a show about humanity trying to survive and how it can be crappy in crappy situations.
Yeah, I always describe it that way. Yeah, the zombies are slow. Not now. They're going to get fast because they need those ratings. They need those
Believe
ratings.
it or not, the Walking Dead comic book actually does have a happy ending.
I've got the 2 of the companion books, but I haven't, finished them.
Oh yeah, so back to that original thing. It's like throw us like a heartwarming bone, and like, man, all your spinoffs will take off. But like your tactic where it's like we're just leave everybody hanging all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that shit gets annoying. It's like
it does.
Yeah, that shit gets annoying.
It's Twin Peaks syndrome. It's the cliffhanger never gets resolved. I don't know if y'all ever watched the sci-fi show Babylon 5.
No, not really.
But the creator, Michael J. Michael Straczynski, said we can never go more than a season and a half without answering a major question. I mean, there was a big question going in that you thought was going to be the basis of the series, but what it did was they answered it at the beginning of the second season because it led into the larger story. It's like we can't leave people hanging because they'll eventually abandon us.
A good show really times those things right. Sometimes it's a season and every season just wraps up nice and tight. Sometimes it's like, I don't know. I think about the Breaking Bad was like so stressful. Like every episode was so stressful.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't wrap up every episode, but they'd wrap up every episode in the first 5 minutes of the next episode.
Yeah.
So if you were binging it, and again, if you're binging it doesn't really matter, but
binging didn't. Just as a side note, I mean, binging is a nice thing nowadays with streaming and with recording. I remember back when I was a boy, and you couldn't binge it when they ended on a cliffhanger. You waited 3.5 months for the next show to come out. The best cliffhanger of all time will always be Star Trek Commander Riker standing on the bridge telling Worf to fire at the Borg ship, and it just says "to be continued." And he had to wait 3 months to find out what the hell was going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember when my wife and I met, we did not have a DVR. So I'm old enough to remember like you'd watch TV shows religiously and there was no DVR, there was no like pausing.
You missed it.
Yeah. If someone like if you sat me in a room and like deprived me of sleep and food for 3 or 4 days and I was like, and you told me that never happened. Like you've never watched, enjoyed a TV show, a serial TV show weekly without a DVR.
That's why so many
I'd be like, okay, I believe you because I cannot imagine like I watched Seinfeld every week for years, like
that's why so many people
tuned in to find out.
That's why so many people tuned in to find out who shot JR.
Yeah, exactly.
So many people tuned in for the final MASH episode because you didn't know if you were ever going to see it again.
I believe it, but it's like it's almost hard to believe that like we dealt with that. We dealt with that,
We just accepted it as what it was.
Yeah,
we wouldn't put up with it today.
Yeah, then you kind of snap it back to wow, man, people just accept whatever is what it is, and then things change and people just accept that. It was like no big deal. And we can be in a we can be in a weird proxy war where we're supplying like the Ukrainians with all the weapons and intelligence and cash, and like, we're paying their pensioners, like we're paying for their healthcare. Like basically everybody in Ukraine has free healthcare because of us. And it's like, man,
and they get free HIMARS.
What's that?
The HIMARS is a rocket system.
Oh, okay. I've probably seen the initials of it.
I mean, let's look at this like this. We are providing more in foreign defense aid to Ukraine than encompasses the entire Russian military budget.
Yeah, and I guess we've already spent more than we did in Afghanistan or something like that. But like,
I'm not familiar. I don't know. That might be. I'm not familiar with that
because it's always like that, right? You spend X amount on your first house, then your next house is a lot more, and it's like, well, yeah, we spent like. It was something like, and maybe it's not apples to apples, but something like we spent 20 billion in Afghanistan, maybe because just things are cheaper, right? Like it's just,
I mean, it is pretty much a crap hole.
Yeah. But in Ukraine, it's already been more over 100 billion or 113 billion or something like that. And no one really knows because it's just funny. Fact check me for sure, but it's not too hard to believe just because of the logistics involved and like the higher stakes money involved. It's no longer the poppy trade we're talking about. We're talking about the trade of natural gas and wheat and oil. And
although I will say one of the things the last 10 to 15 years have taught me is that, and again, it sounds like braggadocio to those who aren't familiar with geopolitics, but the United States truly is the world's only global power. Russia and China, Russia could barely deploy troops to Syria, and that was nearly in its backyard.
Mm-hmm.
China doesn't really have enough rowboats to cross the Taiwan Strait.
Yeah, someone said, I heard something interesting the other day. Basically, China, they dominate, like they're kicking ass in global trade, but all that global trade happens on the water, and it's the United States Navy that makes it all possible.
Well,
like if we just decided that, Chinese ships or whatever weren't worth the gas to protect, like it'd be a different world for them.
Yeah, well, 60% of the world's economic traffic flows through the South China Sea. So it benefits China to an extent to be a regional power, but it's a matter of global reach, global logistics. And there's an old saying, and I'm sure y'all have heard it, that amateurs think tactics, professionals think logistics. You think through all the major wars throughout history, I would struggle to think of one where a war is won in a single decisive battle. Even Hannibal winning the Battle of Cannae did not destroy the Roman Empire. I mean, it's the North didn't beat the South because Grant was a great tactician. They clubbed him to death with resources. When we beat the Germans, the Germans would blow up one of our tanks and another tank would come right behind it. It was our capacity that Yamamoto was afraid of. And we had, we're lucky we got Canada to our north, Mexico to our south, and we got two great big oceans on either side of us. And then we got
really are like, man.
Yeah, flying fortresses that can take stuff everywhere. The United States Navy can take stuff everywhere. I mean, previous global superpowers, the only one I can really think of that was maybe global was the British Empire at its height. And again, because of its Navy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one thing I tell my son. I was just like, man, we are. I was just like in the relative to the world, like whatever it is, we are just blessed. We are so lucky.
And most people don't know it.
We are just so lucky, man.
Mm-hmm.
I tell him that. He was watching videos maybe just last night. He was watching videos on YouTube, and it was he wanted to show me, it was there's an invasive species of carp, some kind of Japanese carp, and it goes, it's like on the Mississippi, it gets into rivers, lakes, whatnot. It's kills all the other species of fish. And he was watching these videos of like all the like wildlife people, whatever, all the money that Americans are pouring into like trying to destroy a species of fish.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so we're just like inventing things to like put in the water, like shoot electricity so that all these fish should jump out and die into a net. And I was like, isn't that incredible? He's like, yeah. I was like, in other parts of the world right now, like people are just starving to death, like literally starving. And it's like, and we're inventing machines and like inventions and like these devices to like mass kill an entire species of fish,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because it's bony. Really, because it's bony. Because if it was meaty and like, you know, it's got good flavor meat, but it's
good,
like
yeah.
it's bony. So it's like we just, you know, that's really not efficient to process and sell to people. So, or like, you know, he talked about, like we talked about feral hogs, like in Florida and Texas, like there's areas where feral hogs just wreck people's landscapes. They're just trying to destroy them.
Yeah.
But it's like, and they can't because they just keep reproducing. I'm like, man, like there's other parts of the world. They're just like, we sure would love those hogs like that. You mean you have hogs that you can eat that won't stop breeding and reproducing no matter what you do? Like, even if it's a drought, they still reproduce. Like, and we can catch them and eat them. We're just busy trying to kill them all. Like, and then like he said, and he was like, well, you know, Uncle Gary said that the big ones don't taste good. And I was like, you think? I was like, I don't think. I was like, some people are like, they're not real picky about the tenderness of their meat, you know, which I understand both sides, but I was like, I was just trying to like, you know, blow his mind a little bit. So
yeah,
make him think about those types of things.
And most
perspective,
people,
as you often say, Russ.
Yeah. And most people won't understand it until they are in some kind of a situation of deprivation.
Yeah. I understood it, I think pretty early because my dad was just beating into my head all the time. Like how he grew up and how they get water from a well. Like that was part of his job was to go to a well and get water every day. And
the reason, and this is a big thing in the South, I don't know how it is elsewhere, but you know, one of the reasons people used to have those big containers full of bacon grease was that's what they would cook with because they couldn't afford to buy grease to cook with. And they saved, you know, my grandparents, especially my great grandparents, used to save tinfoil. You know, hey, we can reuse that because they lived through the Depression, they lived through the deprivation. So you know, when you go without, you do learn to appreciate and take more care of stuff. You know, when you are pampered or spoiled, you know, it takes a lot more effort to appreciate things.
I think that was a real, like, I'm learning as I raise my kids, you know, as we raise our kids, and I kind of like think back to my childhood and what I did at 11 and like try to compare those things. And I just, I do kind of, I worry. Yeah. Cause I've tried to instill like these, some survival things in my kids and, you know, try to give them this perspective that my dad just kind of beat in my head all the time about how lucky they are. But it's hard because it's like at the same time, like all the creature comforts they have.
Well, it's a real push pull. I mean, we talk a lot about, or we hear a lot in the news about privilege. You've got privilege. I mean, to be honest, don't we want our children to an extent have privilege? Don't we want them to have more than we had? Us to make their lives better?
Yeah, we want them to. Yeah, we want them to do that. It's like the battle is like we want them to have those things and also appreciate them. Like
and that's hard.
That's
exactly
really,
Yep.
So that's what you just yell a lot. Just, you know, you know, when in doubt, start yelling.
Yeah, but as I've discovered it, you know, I will bet you dollars to donuts, Chris, that your boy reacts differently to yelling than your girls do.
Yeah, he's heard a lot. He's heard like 6 more years of yelling. He's got 6 more years under his belt. But I
mean,
my girls are my girls are. One of them will crumble. I have to be very careful, and one of them is just like, you know, you don't talk to me like that. Like what?
My oldest is easy to snap back just with one harsh tone, and my youngest will wilt. So I can't be the, you know, the yeller, especially not like my dad was. My dad definitely had some tonnage when we had problems. But I can't do that to my girls. They will just collapse.
Yeah. Yeah. One of mine will, and then one is just she's starting to copy off the older boy, and act like it doesn't bother her and like talk back, and it's funny.
My wife actually tells me that sometimes She thinks I'm hard on the 8-year-old, my step kid. But I tell her, look, I have a buddy of mine, the Marine guy. He said he was afraid to when he had kids that he was going to have a boy because his dad used to be tough on him, and then he felt afraid to have a boy because he was probably going to be tough on the boy, like too tough
Same.
on the boy, right?
I was worried.
So
To be honest, I was
yeah,
like, if I had a boy, I'd be too tough on him.
yeah. So look, I feel like I tell her all the time, look, he's gonna deal with the outside world. I don't yell. I tell her, you know how the Adam Carolla says that the dad usually has to do the hey, the hey, I'm gonna
Dad,
put
the
my
atom
foot down.
bomb.
Yeah, like hey, that tone. So that's kind of what I provide here. I mean, he wasn't really raised with a male figure like that. So I guess that might be kind of like
Well,
a little
boy energy is a little bit different. I mean, with all that testosterone poisoning
Mhm.
we have, male energy can be creative or destructive, but it's how you channel it. And if you don't channel it with that kind of discipline you're talking about,
Mhm.
boys will become destructive and they'll turn into destructive men. So you
Yeah.
have to shape it, and depending on the boy. Obviously, I don't know anything about your situation, but depending on
Mhm.
the boy, you might have to be a little bit more stern. I mean, I think it was Steve Harvey that said that he raised his son completely different than he raised his daughters.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, for sure.
I used to get, I don't want to say I used to get beat, but I used to get the belt. But I love my dad. I loved my dad. I love my mom. My mom threw a wooden spoon at straight at me, and it hit the wall, it broke in half. But I love my parents. Maybe it affected me subconsciously. I don't
It
know.
was just this morning.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously
Yeah.
for I don't plan on spanking or whipping him, nothing like that. But I give him a talking to, and I get serious. I know I just disappointed Chris because
No,
he
I
wants me
don't.
to
No, I
he wants me to
think it's
beat my kids.
like I did for a period, but it's like
Well, as they get older, the
each
spanking
one,
wears.
each kid is like a little bit different. Like with
Yep.
one of my, like some kids, like just the threat of it is like just
Mhm.
devastating, and then some, it's like they're just like didn't even hurt,
The
and
way the way that
they're just like they're like trembling.
Yeah,
Their
yeah,
lower lip is shaking, but they're just like didn't even
yeah.
hurt. I didn't even feel it.
the
Uh-huh.
way
Yeah.
that my mom kept my brother and I in line at the grocery store when we were little kids was she had the handle of the wooden spoon sticking out of her purse.
I don't know. Robbie's just
Did we
computer just
lose
died or
Robbie?
something. Maybe.
No, I mean, my dad never hit me with a belt or anything, but he did whack me with his hand, and I think I was more afraid of him yelling at me than anything else. Um, I mean, obviously, I love the man. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it's one of those where, it the the mom was the daily disciplinarian, the dad was the atom bomb. That they went to dad when things got really bad, and he brought the hammer down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I try to put out like an overall energy that I'm okay with my son emulating, which
Yeah,
is, there's a time to get fired up.
Sure.
There's a
Yeah.
time to laugh and joke around and play and be real sweet with, my girls and, my wife and all that. And even him every,
Mhm.
maybe on his birthday, a little pat on the back, be like, fond of you, son. I'm very fond of you.
Yeah. I may love
We
you.
shake hands in the
Yeah.
morning, like as he like have an excellent day at school, son.
he says I
We
have
shake
some very definitive ideas on what I believe a man's responsibilities are.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I would have probably been too harsh on making sure the boy met that. The best way I can make my girls understand that is in the way that I treat their mother, I believe.
I don't know. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I want them to find a man that takes those responsibilities and those roles seriously.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. You're, for the most part, you never know, but, for the most part, your girls are going to be attracted to, a guy that kind of, is similar to you,
Well, it's funny
as
you
long
say
as,
that.
as long as you like, unless you, well, it's kind of complicated, but like, if you're like supportive and like are always making them feel good or elevated and just like that, they're going to look for someone that's like that.
It's funny. We were my oldest and I were in the car driving back from school, I believe. I don't know, month and a half ago, and we were talking about boys, and she doesn't not really into him too much right now, but she's like, And like the couple of times I've even found a boy, kind of attractive. He was smart and a little bit quirky and kind of sarcastic. And then she looked at me and I smiled and she goes, "Shit."
Yeah. Oh man.
He's real
And he likes to fight
he's real
people on
combative
social media.
he's real combative on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm combative in regular life too. You just don't see it around me.
Oh,
Oh man.
Like I said, don't be a prick to me because I'll be a bigger prick, and I promise I can out prick you.
Yeah, that's always a good thing to live by. Like, I'm not done. I got time. I always have time for this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I will stay up all night. Yeah, I'll be there, and you'll have notifications in the morning if you really want to go at it.
Well, and it's fun sometimes. Like I said, the most fun for me, to be fair, are the people that don't know me in real life and engage me on Facebook and try to tell me that, well, you wouldn't be that way to me if I was, if we were in the same room. And then the people who've known me since I was 8 years old are usually like, oh yeah, he would be just as big a prick.
Oh man. So we were talking about
growing up.
We were talking about China. Yeah. One of my favorite things like the last few weeks is like hearing more and more reports, reading more reports about how like, yeah, China is kind of
On the brink.
kind of statistically doing great on paper, I guess it seems like it, but yeah, they're having some major like structural issues in their society.
Depends on what stats you're looking at. They're pretty heavily in debt right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of phony money, like a lot of weird ghost towns they've built that
yep. And their demographic collapse, given the male to female ratio, plus the cultural ingraining of the one child rule, even though China has opened it up now and says, hey, couples, you need to have 3 children. The one child thing has become such a part of their culture. Most couples are still sticking with only one child. And they're like, well, it's easier to feed, clothe, and educate one child than it is 3.
Like, you were onto something here. Yeah. Like 2 kids sure does seem like a pain in the ass.
Yes.
Yeah.
China has done a lot to itself. We'll see what happens in the next 25 years, but that might make them more dangerous because dying empires, even if they're not strong, tend to lash out in an attempt to save themselves. And that's where things can get dangerous.
Yeah. The fact that they're all men, like you got a bunch of angry dudes that like don't have a lot going on for them. And it's like, hey, you go fight over here, you might be a hero and you get your pick, it's like,
put a bunch of men together with no women, they'll get aggressive fast.
Oh yeah.
Now that's like, I don't think they'll be aggressive, but in the end they don't like, I think, I don't know. I'm not a warrior, but like, that's not something that, that's not something that in the end is valuable. I think to a human is like some fake thing. It's like, no, like a real hometown, like that you want to go back to that has like, that isn't, like I guess what I'm saying is they know deep down, like this is all bullshit. This is a totalitarian regime. And, it's not like the Americans that went to World War II that were dreaming of their sweetheart back in their hometown where there was freedom and like apple pie and baseball games. Like they're like, oh, my hometown's a shithole where the government came and rounded us all up last month. So like, I really don't have any, like you can inject me full of patriotism, but it's like, it's all when it's just not real.
Yeah. But I mean, if you got a few extra million bodies to just throw at a problem and you don't have to worry about them dying.
Well, we can make them like, I hope our commanders are like, well, how do we make a few million bodies go bye real quick?
Oh yeah. We have that capability
because you can't hide all millions of soldiers like that.
But allow me to take issue with one thing and commit a heresy here. I hate apple pie.
Yeah.
Apple pie needs to be a real specific texture, doneness, and has to have ice cream. It has to be
warm with the ice cream.
The only way it's good is if it's not apple pie, it's chocolate, and you got whipped cream or chocolate syrup.
Yeah, it's not the actual apple in the apple pie because those are kind of slimy. In the end, it's like the sweetness, the cinnamon, the crust. If they could somehow make the apple in the apple pie not slimy.
I'm getting to a safer place.
Who's got
Good idea.
children talking?
That's the 8-year-old.
Going to a safer place.
Yeah. Don't call the Child Protective
Oh,
Services
my
on me,
Lord.
people. He's playing
Buddy,
Fortnite.
boy.
But yeah, it's
I
kind of
close
a, it's,
my door mostly because either my children will walk in or they'll hear me speaking loudly and possibly cussing, and my wife doesn't like that.
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes I finish up and I leave and I go downstairs and they're all, my wife and my son are still awake and they're just like, man, what were you yelling about? Like, what were you talking about? Like what? So I'd talk like it as if they can't hear me, but I guess sometimes they can.
He's like taxes, yelling about taxes.
Yeah. Well, this morning it was right before I left for work. Well, schools were closed today here. I told you. There was the backup generator didn't work at the headquarters, so 75 buildings couldn't function.
That sucks.
75 schools couldn't open in our district because the backup generator at the headquarters was broken. It's amazing. I could go on for hours about this because like they released this letter that said the district knock. They're getting all like Mission Impossible, like Jack Ryan terms on us. They said it was compromised. Like they said the storm compromised the district knock, which is like network operations center, like the district knock. And like at the last sentence was, when we attempted to use the backup generator, it worked for a short while, but then experienced a mechanical failure. So I was just like, so basically the backup generator broke and no one could go to school. Just say it that way. But it was like, is this what you're teaching our kids to like make up 8 paragraphs of bullshit about the district knock was compromised? It's like, no, we had bad weather. Like the generator went down, the backup generator, no one tested it. So when they started the backup generator, it blew up. And now all the kids are home. You got like whatever. It's like, I forget what the number was, like tens of thousands of kids at home with their parents today.
Send them to some one-room schoolhouse. That strict school mom has got the ruler. They can swat them on the wrist.
But what I was going to say, so as I was leaving for work today, I was walking out of the bedroom. My wife and my son were laying there watching TV, and it was a commercial for Paxlovid.
Oh, one of the drugs.
I started yelling at the TV and then stormed out. They thought it was funny, but I got my message home.
I was kind of going off on I think I mentioned it on our Endless Ranters chat. I don't think I said it last week, but every week it's like a new kind of school teaching that he comes home with. So did I mention this? He was going over the
let me set the stage. So I'm in whatever issues I have backup generators. I'm in Texas, so like I'm not too worried about curriculum here. Russ probably similar area where
Tennessee, and my kids are in a private Christian school, so
like his teachers have a healthy fear of God and him and parents in them. So, but Rob is in an area where it's like, the subject line in those emails from school are just like, bend over, parents.
They're teaching the kids. They're teaching him to be a victim, basically, because the vocabulary words for this week was I guess what was it? Unfair. Yeah, there you go. Unfair. First of all, why are you teaching unfair? Oh, unfair.
Kids would taunt each other with "life's not fair." We would taunt each other when we were kids with "life's not fair." If someone ever said that.
Yes, I remember my middle school science teacher, Mr. Donahoe. He was I think he was a Vietnam veteran. He told us, he said, I don't want anybody saying the word unfair in class. You can use unequitable. That I remember him saying that, unequitable. I don't want to hear the word unfair, but that was his vocabulary word. And then he goes, unfair laws. And I'm like, what? He goes, what'd you say? He goes, unfair laws. I'm like, where'd you get that? Oh, back in 1950 something. They were still going
2023.
I understand, and I know unfair laws exist, but that's all they teach them, like unfair this and attack on that, and I don't know. So now every time I have a chance to go to like a physical in-person parent teacher, I'm gonna be there. we've got one, I think, next week or 2 weeks from now.
There's a lot to be said for just showing up and looking real aggravated all the time.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that.
Just like like everything you look at, you just give off the vibe of like they spent money on this. Like, look at this, they spent money on that. Like, just give off a vibe of like, of like contempt.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
So now they're celebrating Women's History Month this month at the school. So
using real women or trans women?
Yeah, they are.
Exactly. Well, come on, Russ.
That's what you should. That's what they should teach them. That like every time they're like, today we're celebrating women's history, you should teach them. Be like, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if y'all saw that Hershey's decided to celebrate Women's History Month by putting a trans woman, aka a biological male, on the bar of chocolate.
No,
man, there's gonna be so many people skipping that Hershey's bar and buying another Hershey's product because they have no idea. They have no idea
David
that
Wire
everything
literally just came out with their own chocolate bar.
Yeah.
One is for boys, one is for girls. The one for boys has nuts.
So some people, it's brilliant, what they did and how fast they came up with that. But it's like some people, they're not going to do that, but they're going to like make a choice. Just from the stuff they hear, they don't like the sound of that. So when they're not going to pick up the Hershey's bar at the CVS, but they're going to pick up the Payday or whatever it is. But that's like also that's just a Hershey's bar.
All I ask is
thing. It's like, and that's what really makes me mad about this Hershey's thing is not what they're trying to do, not the social message. It's the fact that we allow like we basically allow monopolies on just the things we love. We allow like one company to purchase every fucking candy.
Oh yeah. Mars.
It's like, if you want candy, you're going to support Hershey's hiring a dude to be their spokeswoman. So or you have to sign up for a subscription. So
what else are they doing in the classroom to celebrate International Women's Month?
I don't know. I just feel like they're gonna, every week they're asked to wear something. Wear this day, wear that day. I'm afraid that they're gonna tell the kids to wear their, mom's favorite tampon or something to school. I don't know. So far, I don't know. All I ask, with going back to the chocolate bars and all that stuff, keep the veins on my Snickers bar, please. Keep the dick veins on there. Don't take them away.
It's crazy how like that's what kills me about like, like that Hershey's or whatever, whoever owns Hershey's, because it's probably not that. They just own like, if you go to CVS, they own like 3/4 of the candy bars that are at that checkout. You're just trying to like get your kids something nice, and it's like, no, you're supporting some crazy stuff. I don't even know why. I don't know why. Yeah, because
they get yelled at by people. That's all it is. They cave to one group because they think the other group is going to continue to buy from them.
And they don't really care because they know that the person is just going to buy another one of their products and they just have no idea. Yeah, because I think most people most people don't realize like that, half the grocery stores in their town, like they're named different, but they're owned by the same company.
Well, that's probably, I'll go back to the world of publishing for authors. Most folks will go to this, Puffin Books or, all this other stuff, not realizing that there are 5 major publishing houses out there. Everything else is a subsidiary. It just belongs to something else.
People should be worried that that's happening. It's not publishing. It's not grocery store. It's every industry. Every industry is consolidating into fewer and fewer owners, and whatever they decide is like the correct way to be. So, the correct social things to believe in, like you're just not going to escape it.
The backlash is beginning. And I think it's going to be, I
hope so.
I think it's going to be a bad backlash. I mean, I don't know if you saw how quickly Coke backed down after some of the stuff they put out. They tried to, Puffin Books, which is a subsidiary of Penguin, tried to censor Roald Dahl's books, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and stuff. And they've kind of backed down where they say, well, we'll publish the sensitive ones and we'll publish the non-sensitive ones alongside, which basically to me says we're going to try to wait out the storm and then we'll do whatever the hell we want.
Oh, to me, that means that they're just going to they're going to go full steam ahead on all the books that you haven't heard of.
Yeah.
But the one author that, had BFG or had whatever, drawing a blank on whatever his other famous work was that's made into a movie, like those will be safe. But like everything else is going to be that you're not seeing on the headlines. That'll be all edited. So, yeah, I wonder, I think there is a backlash, but then I think by the time the backlash happens, by the time everybody realizes what's happened, like you're going to have two choices for your food, Kroger or Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I don't see the hippies giving up Trader Joe's or,
Trader Joe, like that's the thing. Like people think that Trader Joe's is some kind of hippie. Trader Joe's is like owned by a German multinational supermarket corporation. I know this because I love telling my mom that because she loves Trader Joe's. She thinks there's an actual guy named Trader Joe. I'm just like, Mom, it's owned by the same company as Aldi because they have a bunch of Aldi supermarkets pop up here and they're really super cheap and nothing's a name brand. But it's like, it's the same German company that owns both those grocery stores. So it's like, man, it's like I don't know. I'll be done with that subject for now. But, all right. My last question would be on all these things, like Ross, like who's doing this? Like who is kind of keeping us fighting against each other? Who wants us to be a segregated nation that just wants us fighting about a race even more than they did 20, 30 years ago? Like, no one wants a dude dressed up as a woman as the Hershey bar spokesperson. Like,
well, I think
who's doing this stuff? What's going on?
It's a combination. I don't think there's any one conspiracy. I don't think humanity is.
What's the driving force is what I'm saying. Like what?
Well, some of it is a lot of what's going on today with like some of the new equity stuff, some of the stuff, Robbie, that you're mentioning in schools is a lot of people I think are, for lack of a better word, pissed off. They missed the civil rights movement. They have a desire to fight injustice and iniquity, and they missed it. And so they're going to create stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things I always bring up is that, yes, racism, for example, exists, but I think our demand for racism outstrips the supply nowadays. For example, we want to be seen as fighting on the right side. And if there's no side to fight on, we will create it so that we can look virtuous.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I tell the kid, I think I told you guys, I put a Lil Wayne interview on, and I showed him, and he was talking about a story about how he shot himself when he was a kid, and all his friends ran off, jumped over his body, ran off. And the police officers and the white man, a police officer, saved his life. And so he goes, basically said, Black Lives Matter, white man saved my life, a police officer. So I don't know. It's like you said, racism exists. Just, just don't let it.
Well, it's like there's a Klan rally, for example, where there's 8 Klansmen, but they're outnumbered by the 20 reporters that are covering it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Going kind of to that. Look, if at a college there's a white power, a speaker, go ahead, do your thing if you want to, or in a public place, do your thing. I'm gonna see who it is, and I want to know who you are. Obviously, if you can have your own opinion of whatever, as long as you don't touch me or you don't try and physically hurt me. Okay, I like you to expose yourself, and now I'll just watch who you are. And
that's an argument I had with somebody when they were talking. I've been amazed by the number of people who have, over the last year or two, argued against free speech. And I'm like, no, look, the solution is not less speech. The solution is more speech. The solution is you expose those ideas to mockery and ridicule. But going back to what you were talking about, I'd say of all of the so-called racial incidents I've read about on campuses, well over 90% of them turn out to be somebody just trying to draw attention to themselves who was not even part of the so-called oppressive group. They were one of the oppressed groups that were trying to draw attention to something. It happened at the Air Force Academy. It happened, I just read about it at, I don't remember the name of the school, but there's another school where to protest free speech, there were some folks from the LGBTQ community had written anti-LGBTQ slogans on a wall, and they got caught. Jussie, everybody knows Jussie Smollett, or as Dave Chappelle called him, Juicy Smouvier.
Oh, the Frenchman, yeah.
Yeah. The demand outstrips the supply for a couple of reasons. Like I said, people want to feel like they're fighting something. But the other thing, to be fair, it's hard to get out of this. People take empowerment from being a victim. If I'm a victim, well, then you owe me sympathy. I have a louder voice now because I have some kind of victim credibility, and people will play into that mentality. It's just, for some people, it feels good to play the victim because then they get all the sympathy.
I think that's the part of humanity that the masses that they prey on. But like, man, like someone's just plucking those strings all the time.
Oh, there are folks,
Hollywood, legacy media.
Well, if you look at it, God has kind of not done a very good job recently of creating supervillains, because if you look at from George Soros to Klaus Schwab, they're like almost comical supervillains. It's not hiding anything. It's not.
I think I can push this guy down and break a hip. Like, I don't think this guy could survive COVID even. Like,
one of the reasons I think we look at these guys with skepticism is like, God, you can't really be this open with how evil these people are, right? They have to hide it in some way.
Yeah.
Well, there's a weird thing about humans too, that it's not like he didn't make good supervillains. It's like he made, like we are like really, like you could just be right in our faces being like, yeah. Like Bill Gates is just going around talking about how we need to like cut population. He's just telling you what's up. Like, it's like, there's no hiding it. And people are just like, I don't know.
Exactly.
No one's like, obviously like many people do not like him, but for the most part, he's got a big checkbook. So just like, yep.
It's like the woman that was
sounds good.
The woman at the World Economic Forum who told, I believe it was Brian Stelter, that she's from the EU, and you know how the EU cracks down on speech. She was like, well, you folks in the US, you will have these anti-hate speech laws soon too. I'm like, honey, you have no idea what our cultural traditions are and how badly that will get fought. It was said with a dismissiveness of, oh, we know it's best for you, so therefore you will adopt our standards one day. It's like, no, go screw yourself.
Maybe we will, but man, it's going to be a step to the end.
It's going to be also violent. If it comes to that.
Just creating more of those things where you're just going to be pitting people against each other, pitting citizen against state.
Yeah. You know who could be like a supervillain in training? I'm not sure. I don't know him well, but he seems like a really nice, friendly guy when he
Pete
talks.
Buttigieg?
No, gentle, and he's like gentle when he talks and very soft spoken. Justin Trudeau, Canada.
Oh, he's already a supervillain.
Yeah.
You mean Fidel Castro's son?
Like, exactly.
Man.
He looks just like his dad. Yeah.
No, Trudeau has taken Canada down a dark path. There is a conservative opposition leader. I think his name is Poilievre. And he can get into power. I mean, I've heard him speak. He's got some stuff down. The problem is he's going to have to overcome the Quebec, Montreal, Toronto electoral folks.
Yeah, they have similar problems to us. They have elites that are just super progressive and very powerful and just
pushing assisted suicide.
They just win the cultural battle all the time, and they've got a lot of like regular people that are just like, what the fuck's happening here? And they just can't stop it. They can't stop it. There's just too much money, marketing, media behind it. Like,
that's the thing, is the cultural institutions are all controlled by them. I mean, from entertainment, the media, and education. If you control the cultural levers of power, you can control the momentum, or at least you can control the perception of momentum.
Yeah, that's kind of like, my answer to who's really kind of doing all this. It's like, well, we do it to ourselves, but it's the media. It's like legacy media, Hollywood, like stereotypes are good for business, racism, like people like this group being against other people. That's like money making stuff in Hollywood. Whether you're selling the news, whether you're selling
Arms.
the next blockbuster movie, like that you need to have some kind of tension. And what's easier than just like, well, it's just like these guys are like Hispanic guys and these guys are white guys, or these guys are black guys and Asian guys, and like who needs to have good story writing and exposition where we just have these stereotypes where people are at each other's throats all the time. And yeah, it just sells really well.
Well, the outrage industry will never go broke because human beings are predisposed to outrage.
Yeah, but these are and it's just frustrating because these are the people that are I don't think we've even said this word. These are the super woke people, Hollywood, that are telling us how to live.
I almost said it earlier,
and how to. Yeah, it's like crazy. Yeah. These are the ones that are telling us all these ways to be and live and like what's okay. And it's like, oh, you're also they're the same ones that are just perpetuating violence, gun violence, like beef violence, rap violence, whatever. They're just fueling.
They're too cowardly to speak out. You talked about watching a Joe Rogan clip earlier. I watched one actually today where he had Matthew McConaughey on. Matthew McConaughey was talking about he's religious. He says, and I don't go for that Hollywood crap of I'm spiritual, not religious. He said, no, I'm religious. But it pained him when he said, it pains me when I go up there and I accept this award and I start talking about my faith. And I see people in the audience who literally I have been in a room praying with, and they'll start to applaud and they'll look around to see, all right, this is going to hurt my resume, and then they'll sit on their hands.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, it's hypocrisy and it's fear. That's why, Richard Nixon's silent majority is an actual thing, but it's one of the reasons why I'm such a pain in the ass, whether it's in person or online, is because for every person that speaks up, there are 10 to 20 who would like to speak up but won't because they feel they'll be alone.
Yeah, there's definitely an element to that. You just put it out there because there'll be someone that walks by and sees it that's just like, okay, good, yeah, someone else realizes this is bullshit.
Yep.
At least one person out there. Yeah. So just the people that want to preach to us the most, are running things and deciding like what is popular culture, like who's going to be the popular rapper, like what's going to be the popular movie. And and they're the ones that really perpetuate these things and keep everybody segregated, which is it's just
they try to perpetuate, like, for example, popular movies, but they fail badly with like the all-female Ghostbusters, and I guarantee you this new Peter Pan is going to be an absolute flop.
That's why that's bad, but it's like, just racism, crime, like stereotypes, like one group not liking another. That's the kind of stuff that they perpetuate, to no end. And I don't know. I don't think it's like as consumer driven. You know what I mean? It's like, I get why they always play Storm Watch on the news because that's, consumer driven. Like people want to watch storms and like whatever and doomsday. But like, I don't know that people want to see like just contrived template driven stereotype, gangbanger versus white, that kind of thing.
But if they play it enough, they can create consumers of it.
Yeah. So I don't know, but then it's the same thing. It's like as people figure it out that oh man, you mean like filling my young children's head with rap music for the last 20 years actually has kind of turned into them like being kind of aggressive and having like a beef mentality with everybody. Like, oh, maybe that wasn't such a good idea.
Or if you want to kind of go to the right,
hey, who was doing that? Hey, whose decision was it to make all those guys huge stars and put them on KFC buckets? Who did that?
Mm-hmm.
If you watch Fox News, have you noticed that they're always like selling like gold and bullion?
William Devane.
Yeah. And
William Devane is a financial genius, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. And not just that, but they sell. Don't they also sell like MREs and pack like emergency packs? Because we're always so worried.
Some of that, like
I
bulk
I like it.
catheters. Yeah,
Patriots
like,
Yeah,
spot.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they all do that. The media and everything.
But
But
like
like,
for themselves, they're out to make a buck.
yeah. Well, like Russ was saying, going back to Matthew McConaughey, another person that's kind of not well spoken, but outspoken, is Chris Pratt. What do you think of him?
I like Chris Pratt. Now
Yeah.
there's actually was just a controversy in the news again today because he's been cast in the new Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah.
And
Can't
some
wait for the
people
movie.
don't like that because he's religious.
Yeah,
Now,
people hate him.
I will say this. First of all, he's not too in your face, but I don't know if y'all ever saw the MTV speech he gave a few years ago.
Yeah.
Well,
man did, yeah.
he was very clever with that because he intermixed humor and some other things in with the religious talk.
He did.
So it didn't seem overwhelming. I like Chris Pratt. He's
It
never
was
come
positive. I
out and said,
remember that speech. It was just positive.
yep.
So there's a way to, there's a way to put it out there. Positive.
Well, and you know who else actually puts out positivity, and you wouldn't really know it unless you dug in, is Ashton Kutcher.
Mm.
I don't know if you ever heard him talk about the value of work and the value. He's done pretty well. Chris Pratt talks about it. I like him.
Yeah.
And Hollywood can't cancel Pratt right now because too many people like him. They need to turn him into a villain like they did James Woods before they can cancel him.
Yeah.
I tried. I think that it's the fact that we're even like talking about the faith of some celebrity is kind of part of the problem. So back to like kids, like I really try to tell my kids, like, celebrities don't give it. Like, I understand why you know all their names, but they don't give a damn about you.
No.
Like, they don't matter. Like, you should be more concerned about our neighbor, neighbor's kid's dad, like what his morals are than like Chris Pratt and whatever. I know, like, culturally, I get it. Like, but
it's also
it's like we value this. It's like so the whole celebrity thing is
one of the things it revolves around. I mean, this may be a little bit too esoteric to go out there, but it's an evolutionary thing. You see people who are successful, you're drawn to them because you're drawn to success. Success protects and secures the group. If you can be part of that success, you have a better chance at being successful yourself, is the way we were brought up. Now, we were never biologically designed to be in mass media cultures. The head chief, or the guy who had, the 4 wives, that's the guy you want to hang around because he was successful. That's now all that does is that's turned into, Chris Pratt and Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. I try to instill that in my kids, like, just to not to value, not to worry about celebrity birth, like, just not to value it so much. I mean, people were saying that 30 years ago, like, Americans, just Americans, especially, like, obsession with celebrity was like,
show them how shitty their lives turn out. Was
like becoming a really, for whatever reason, just the Schadenfreude, the obsession, the living out, like living out through living through someone else, whatever, like finding something that's just not reality to like, to like improve your reality, to stay away from that. Just remember the worst, like, I'll stop talking soon, but the worst commercial from the Super Bowl to me wasn't the grossest commercial. Wasn't Cocaine Bear. It was was it Bradley Cooper with his mom for T-Mobile or whatever wireless service. Like, I don't even remember. That's how, like, I don't even remember it, but it's like, apparently him and his mom have an incredible relationship. Right. But it's like,
I've heard that he is very much a mama's boy.
Right. But it's like, so the commercial there was no real writing or anything. It was just a display of his relationship with his mom. So, like, basically T-Mobile was taking, like, he sold this beautiful thing he has, right? With it, like, he does, like, really, he sold that to T-Mobile so they could be like, oh, how, to, like, people that don't know you, they don't know you or your mom. They don't, what what the hell, you don't know them, like, so they could sell more, get more, like, give more free iPhones away for 2-year plans and whatnot. It's like, I don't know, something that maybe I may be just getting older and, more cynical. That was, but that was like that was like gross to me because it's like it's not even funny. There's no writing. You're just selling this very real and beautiful thing that these two people have.
Yeah.
Like you're making it artificial, to sell data plans. And it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, now, I don't know. Maybe he takes all that money and he gives it to charity and, it's amazing, but it's like, I don't know. That was just a really boring commercial that I thought was kind of, yeah.
I actually didn't.
All because he's famous and good looking and like all because like just, what's that?
I actually didn't pay too much attention to the commercials this year. They kind of
I didn't either.
Years ago when the Super Bowl commercials, like every other one, seemed to be about domestic violence.
Yeah. It's like, why isn't there more? I mean, what?
Yeah.
Every commercial.
Yeah.
I want to.
You're not sure how the NFL falls on that one. Like they're like more or less.
I want to say it was like back in 2015. It was like every other one was like, if you've been a victim of domestic violence, you need to call this number, or you should take this, antidepressant if you're a victim of domestic violence. And I'm like, geez, what kind of memo went out?
I think it has been said that some of the commercials have kind of been like watered down a bit, just because like, I don't know. I guess at some point you can only have like maximum flavor on every bite for so long. And then eventually like everybody was like, all right, man, we got to like, not every commercial needs to be $8 billion and the most, blow your mind. Like one of my favorites was the Breaking Bad one ever for the pop chips or whatever.
I didn't watch a single one.
Bryan Cranston and Jesse, whatever his face, and it was funny because I watched the show before. But I had actually seen the commercial like a week before because Bryan Cranston just shared it on his Twitter.
Well, that's the thing. The
commercial, it was already out there like a week in advance, and that was a Super Bowl commercial.
Remember, I mean, when I was a kid, when I was in high school or even in college, half the reason to watch the Super Bowl, mostly because the Super Bowls were all blowouts back in the late 80s and early 90s, was to find out what cool commercials were going to be on. Now they show all the commercials, you get them a week in advance.
Literally, this is a stat, a fun fact for our listener Sean. Literally, statistically speaking, the most common thing to do is root for the Buffalo Bill. Like,
Emmy says happy Friday, by the way. He's watching. So we got another listener.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was statistically speaking, more people rooted for the Buffalo Bills in that period than any other team. Just with sheer numbers, being there 4 times.
Yeah, that was so sad. If they had won 2 of those Super Bowls, they'd have been considered one of the greatest dynasties ever. But losing 4 in a row, despite getting to 4 Super Bowls being very hard, they were seen as perennial losers.
Was that Jim Kelly all 4 years too?
Yep.
Man.
Did you ever see the ESPN commercial with him where Adam Vinatieri goes there at the airport? Adam Vinatieri walks through the metal detector and it goes off. It's like, he takes off a Super Bowl ring. It goes through and goes off again. He takes off like 2 or 3 of them. And then at the end, Jim Kelly walks through and nothing happens. He's just looking around.
That's messed up. Sad.
Well, we've had a good time here. We've gone solid 2 hours.
Yeah, I think it's past my bedtime. I'm too old.
I'm about ready to get started. I got a new smoker today, so I'm about to finish putting it together so I can season it tomorrow.
You enjoy that. I'm going to be going to bed soon.
Yeah.
I'm a party guy.
But we really appreciate it, man. It's always great catching up with you. And it was a pretty easy week. I didn't have a lot planned because I knew that once we talked about 2 or 3 things, it would just go to, we'd fill a couple hours.
Yeah. No, it's great to be here. I always like talking to you guys. One of the reasons why I try to show up to the happy hours is just, it's great to be able to engage.
Yeah. Well, I know that also I've been, we've been texting for a couple months now. We've been trying to figure something out because I know with the 2 Grumpy Bastards available on all your podcast platforms as I've been on a hiatus. So I know you've just got a lot of built up stuff to say.
Oh yeah.
But we'll also, just so y'all know, the Bastards will be back hopefully within the week. And we'll have to do some more crossover stuff here some point soon. Like I said, as we come back, we'll let y'all know what was going on the hiatus, and we'll do some more crossovers and be talking some more.
Yes, sir. Look forward to it.
I hope Russ
Yeah.
learned some of military things from my.
Yeah.
The male and female tank thing I did not know.
Okay. Yeah. I need a fact checker. So thanks, Russ.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a little dubious. I don't know about that one.
I'll look it up, but for right
All
now,
right.
I'll count it as a thing you have taught me.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and being here, and thanks for listening. We appreciate it. This is Chris. Get it on.
This is Rob. Get it on.
This is Russ. Take it off.
All right, that was fun, man. Yeah, always good.
Yeah.
It was a lot of
Good
fun.
times.
I like that. That was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
You bet, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, go enjoy your weekend. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
You
Rob.
too, Russ. I gotta go.
I'm taking my daughter to an ACT prep session tomorrow.
All right, Russ. Thanks.
All right,
All right,
cheers.
thanks, guys. I'll talk to y'all later.
All right,
See you
too.
guys.
All right, Chris,
All right.
Emmy,
Take care, buddy.
everybody listening.
Yeah.
Charles,